Borussia Dortmund against Chelsea. James, I'm coming to you first on this one. It is a massive game for both clubs, clearly. I guess my question to you would be about Potter in his position that he's in right now. Is it easy for him to choose a starting 11? And how much pressure is put on him with selecting that starting 11, not only from the other players who are not playing, but also probably from ownership now to get it right with the starting 11? How much pressure is on his shoulders in this tie overall?
I mean, the ownership thing, I think we have to come out and say, look, they hired him for the long haul, and every indication coming out of Chelsea is that hasn't changed, and that this is a project for years, not for months, not for weeks. Now, Chelsea fans feel rather differently, and I think the key thing we have to say is it's not just that the results aren't coming, it's that, God, they are dreadful to watch. Absolutely, the cure for insomnia is watching some of their build-up play before Enzo Fernandez arrived. And that started to ease a little bit with Fernandez's presence, because finally, and I have to say, frankly, as good as Kovacic, Jorginho and Kante have been, it's been a very long time since Chelsea have had a table setter, a midfield playmaker from deep like Enzo Fernandez looks to have been in a very small sample size. But it's just that the goals aren't coming. The chances are starting to come a bit more, and João Felix is making a really nice impact, and Mudryk looks like the player a lot of people feared he might be, which is a good player that you have overpaid for. They just need to, I think the one thing I would say about this game, and Ian, I know you can talk about Dortmund, but one thing, even though they kept a clean sheet last week and the defense is getting better and they're starting to control games a bit more, is they are a team that can very suddenly look like they've got no idea how to defend in the transition. They will lose the ball, and before you know it, the opposition are down the other end putting the ball in the net. And I think that will suit Chelsea, who aren't a team at the moment that look like they can break down a defense, but get Fernandez, Mudryk, Felix in open space. That might be their best route to goals. So, I mean, look, we're looking at the squad right there and all their January arrivals, and most of them aren't even available to play. No Badiashile, who's been excellent since he came in, because they've got to make room for Fernandez, Mudryk, and João Felix. Noni Madueke, I think, could be added as well, but I'm not certain on that regard. Noah Aubameyang as well, who obviously has been massively off form for a long time now and didn't fix things at Chelsea, but he's also their third highest scorer with 3 goals. So look, there are a lot of problems. My thing that makes me feel like Chelsea might be able to get something out of this is that they do have players that can punish Dortmund's mistakes, and I do think, as much as Dortmund have improved since the World Cup, Dortmund will make those mistakes. But you know that better than me, Ian.
Mm-hmm. It's the thing that fascinates me about this, and it's sort of touching on the point made by James, like with regards to the players registered in the squad. Ziyech nearly joined PSG in the transfer window, yet he's still in that Champions League squad. That suggests to me that Potter does have an idea of the players that he wants to use or can use in a system that he envisages. And yes, they are struggling to score goals, but I actually think he's going to be quite grateful that the January transfer window is behind them now, and that, the pieces available to him are not changing on sort of an hourly or daily rate as they were during the winter window. I think he's now set to go with this squad between now and the end of the season, assuming that he gets given until the end of the campaign, which, you imagine will be the case as long as form, continues to improve. But, I completely agree with James. They seem to be a team, really, really struggling for identity at this moment in time. It's taken a long time for people to even start to say, like, well, this is kind of starting to look like a Graham Potter team finally. And, I think it's going to be, a number of weeks, maybe even months before people are really saying, like, finally, this is Chelsea starting to play in the recognizable kind of Potter style that they expected them to. I guess the question is, how much of the season can Chelsea save in these next couple of months before they really start to properly buy into what Potter is trying to get them to do on the pitch? Dortmund are a funny one, because as we've already sort of touched upon, they are a team that could punish Chelsea and could beat them here, but also equally have their vulnerabilities, notably the defense, which sets this up, if Chelsea can actually find a way to score a couple of goals, maybe to go through at their expense. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't think that too many teams, if they were looking ahead to the quarterfinals already, would be worried about potentially coming up against a Dortmund or a Chelsea in this, kind of slump that Chelsea have been in recently. But equally, given the quality that they're able to put out on the pitch, there is always going to be that risk that they, turn it on, and manage to pulverize a team. Maybe that will happen against Dortmund. But like you said, Dortmund have started to improve recently. They've closed the gap a bit on Bayern at the top of the Bundesliga. For me, I still feel like this is going to be a very close one, and it could actually end up being Dortmund who sneak through.
Yeah, it's a very close one to call here. And maybe that's the case here. Who doesn't concede the most in this game? I think it's very difficult to stop Borussia Dortmund from scoring goals. But like you both pointed out, that defensively, I mean, whether it's Sule, Schlotterbeck, Hummels, who starts in that defensive position, they're poor. I think the fullback positions, they've actually been a bit more impressive. Ryerson's been very good on the fullback position. But the fullbacks love to get forward. Guerrero on the other side. I mean, they're just fun to watch offensively, Borussia Dortmund, but they just forget sometimes to defend. And at times, even recently against Freiburg, they were up a man and still conceded a goal against Freiburg relatively easy just by the counter-attack and making mistakes defensively. So Borussia Dortmund right now are a fun team to watch. They're in a run of 5 games in a row where they've won all 5 games in the Bundesliga. It's been fun to see them perform. It's been fun to see Royce come back, Aller come back. Obviously, we're so happy for him personally to be back playing there, but he's clearly not fit right now. He needs match fitness, and right now in big games like this, I don't know whether you play him. He might have to start now. Mukoko came off at the weekend there with an injury, which is a major concern. I actually saw him holding his hamstring, I think, when he came off, which is a massive concern for me as to where he's at going into this game. But with that game being obviously a home game, you would expect Dortmund to go for it in this first leg because that's where I think they can win it. But I don't think that they can stop Chelsea from scoring goals. However, as James and JJ, as you've pointed out rightfully, where are the goals coming from this Chelsea side? They have the players. Clearly, we see it in the squad. But right now, offensively, they look so poor. Creativity is surely there. You've got the players. You've got the talent. But I don't know what it is that it's not clicking for Chelsea that would give too much fear for Edin Terzic. And Terzic is one man who's done an unbelievable job. I'm so happy he got the job again at Borussia Dortmund once again. He's finally doing very well. They're still involved in all competitions in the DFB Pokal, still in the Champions League, and clearly still in with a chance here. No one's talking about Dortmund potentially challenging Bayern Munich at the top of the Bundesliga. But this game right here, if he gets past Chelsea, I think would be a tremendous personal achievement for Edin Terzic. Anything else, James, before we move on?
Yeah, just super intrigued to see what that Chelsea front 3 ends up looking like. I mean, I think this is what you were almost referring to. Where do the goals come from? And they don't really come from Kai Havertz, who gets the chances, but has that Timo Werner quality at the moment where I wouldn't back him to hit a barn door. I mean, look, as Vic says, Havertz needs to be benched. Same with Gallagher, Mount, and Kukurea. I mean, Mount's the really interesting one because this guy has fallen off a cliff. Like in terms of output, in terms of creativity, goals. And I think that has got to be a real worry. I think unless João Felix really clicks, it's hard to see that many goals in this game.
Can I just say here that this game could be won by individuals? Clearly, there's a lot of talent on display here, but Jude Bellingham, this is his platform right now. And I know he's from down the road, JJ, from where you grew up in Stourbridge, right? That's where he's from. But this is a game for him to prove a point.
Long road, that. That's a long road from old Stourbridge. You've got to go try to Bellingham.
Very true, and it's you won't get me saying positive things about any former Birmingham City affiliated players too often, but no, he is a fantastic talent and one who we really love to watch. Every time Dortmund are playing in the Champions League that we're lucky enough to enjoy on Paramount Plus, and it does feel like the kind of tie where there's enough for a chance of Dortmund to win this that he could really stamp his name on it across both legs and make it. I'm not going to say a breakout performance because obviously we already know that Bellingham is one of the brightest stars, in the world game at this moment in time. But one of those ones that puts any potential lingering doubts in the heads of any of the big clubs that might want to move from this summer, to one side. I do think as well regarding that Mukoko injury that you mentioned, that could potentially be a bit of a concern for Dortmund, not just for this leg, but the second leg as well. Because if I remember correctly, Terzic was saying after the match that it seems like it could be a fairly serious injury. So that would be a big blow for Dortmund if they do lose Moukoko ahead of this two-legged affair. But no, Bellingham, this is a big, big opportunity for him, to really flash his credentials once again.
Quick prediction from both of you in this one here. James, I'll start with you. It is Dortmund at home in the first leg.
Yeah, 2-1 Dortmund, and I'm going to say Bellingham gets at least one of the goals.
JJ?
I've gone for 2-2. I predict this to be the most goal-filled of all of these games this week.
I think this could be an absolute banger of a game. I'm going for both teams to score here in this game, but I think we get a winner like James pointed out there. I think Dortmund are difficult to be at home. Chelsea, I think 2-1 would probably be an okay result for them going back home in the second leg. So let's hope we get a cracking game.